So right there behind me, that is the Arctic Ocean, and right here beside me, this is the 2019 Chevrolet Silverado. Now Chevy Canada took its tagline, "Find New Roads," really literally, and we've come up here to drive the Inuvik to Tuktoyaktuk Highway. This is a brand new road which was just completed late last year, and it has brought us here to the beautiful Arctic. So come along as we go on this journey. So here we are in lovely Inuvik, and we're just walking up to our nice lineup of Silverados right now. Check these guys out. The reason we came to find this new road is the all-new 2019 Chevy Silverado. Now this truck has been made lighter thanks to a mixed materials approach, which includes aluminum swing panels like the doors and hood, along with the lighter frame. Overall, mass has been reduced by an average of 450 pounds. Silverado is adding 2 new power plants for 2019, a turbo 4-cylinder and a diesel, but it also soldiers on with those same old V8s, either a 5.3 liter or a 6.2 liter. But they've also been packed full of new technology thanks to Chevy's dynamic fuel management system, which allows both engines to run on any combination from 1 to 8 cylinders to help save fuel. More trim levels than ever before are now on offer, 8 of them to be exact, including that new Trail Boss off-road model, which is exactly the first truck we got into to tackle the road. Okay, so we're just about halfway up to Tuktoyaktuk, and we're almost north of the tree line. You can see just a few little trees sticking around behind me, but we're almost far enough north that we have lost the trees. Now, so far the road's actually been pretty good. You know, it's gravel road, so there are lots of potholes and divots everywhere, but for the most part it's well maintained. A few kind of muddy soft sections, but yeah, no issue for the Silverado yet, that's for sure. So let's keep going. The Inuvik to Tuktoyaktuk Highway, also called the ITH, was completed in November of 2017, becoming the very first road to link Canadians to the Arctic Ocean. It took just about 4 years to build, and until now, Tuk was only accessible by airplane in the summer or by an ice road that ran down the Mackenzie River in the wintertime. The ITH cost about $300 million to build, it runs a total of 138 kilometers, and its construction was very much unlike how roads are built down south. A layer of geotextile fabric was placed on the ground to protect the permafrost, as digging into that soft earth above that permafrost could have actually resulted in melting. Because they were trying to protect that layer of frost, construction actually took place in the winter time, which means that a lot of this work was done in darkness. The highway winds its way through the Mackenzie River Delta. It has a total of 8 bridges and many more culverts so as not to upset the flowing water that is so characteristic of this area. In some sections, the gravel is up to 6 meters or 20 feet high, resulting in these massive embankments on either side of the road. And to make sure the road stays intact, sensors were placed along its entire length so that the temperature can be continually monitored. That right there is one of the many pingos in this area, which is essentially an ice mountain. The permafrost underneath pushes up and through and forms these tiny little hills, and the core of that thing is pure ice. Pretty crazy. Bingo. Bingo. Was completed in November of 2017, so it's not even a year old yet, and it's essentially just a gravel road. However, the things that have been sort of tricky are there are some kind of big potholes, and the issue with them is sometimes you're coming up and over these little rises, you don't quite see them, so you do end up hitting some stuff out here a little bit harder than you might when you're driving on a much flatter road. And that's been actually a really good opportunity to feel how this Silverado handles, pretty rough conditions. And so far the truck has done fantastic. It's a quiet, calm, comfortable cruising truck. And we drove up here to Tuktoyaktuk in a Trail Boss. So the Trail Boss gets a 2-inch lift and it gets those Rancho shocks. And you could definitely feel a bit of the difference in the shocks. The Ranchos, when you're running over the rough stuff, tend to track a little straighter. The back end doesn't quite get out of sorts as this truck we're in now. Oh, there's one of those big hits I was talking about. We definitely bottomed her out there. But even that, you know, that was about 90 kilometers an hour. And that was a pretty sizable hole. And the truck ate it up really well. You know, it wasn't back-braking or anything like that. So on our way up here, we also had the 5.3 liter V8 under the hood. And that is definitely one of the things with this 2019 that Chevy probably could have done more with, is the powertrains. Now don't get me wrong, I know there's that new Turbo 2.7 coming and there's that 3-liter diesel coming, and those are really exciting engines, but the 5.3 is kind of the meat and potatoes of the Silverado lineup, and they didn't do much to it, and it still feels a little anemic to me, just a little underpowered. It's got some power, but compared to other manufacturers' sort of mid-level truck engines, it just doesn't quite have the oomph, and that's really emphasized when you get into this 6.2. The 6.2 liter V8 is just so good. 460 pound-feet of torque. It feels like it delivers it all right down low when you take off. And then more than that, it just sounds really, really good. This engine has a really nice, you know, linear power delivery, very predictable power, and when you mat it, this truck takes off. All right, guys, here we are. There's the truck, and you can see the sign behind me. We made it all the way to Tuktoyaktuk. Now, next stop is the Arctic Ocean. We're gonna drive through town, and we're gonna find it. Let's go. So we made it here to Tuktoyaktuk, and we're only here for a few hours before we go back to Inuvik, but it's been a really neat little community to drive around. So the population here is just 600, so it's a tiny little town. And the amazing thing for Tuk is that now they're connected by road. Part of the reason why the road was built was to help the oil industry, but a moratorium was put on Arctic drilling in 2016, so that actually kind of went away. So, you know, the highway has just really become a lifeline for the residents here, and yeah, bringing in more tourism. We actually did see a few campers out there on the road today, so obviously people know about it and they want to come check it out. And again, it's pretty amazing that we are now connected in Canada from coast to coast to coast, all on a highway. So one of the things that really stands out here in Tuktoyaktuk is this radar station. I mean, you know, the whole town certainly is not high-tech looking, and then you have this really crazy looking radar station. Well, in the 1950s, this was actually part of the DEW line. That's the distant early warning line that the US and Canada established to watch for rockets coming over the top of the world from Russia. And up here in Tuk was one of the most northern communities that they had access to, so that's why this radar station is still here. We had the amazing chance to take in traditional drumming and dancing by the Inuvik people that live here. There was something truly moving about hearing this music that was created here hundreds of years ago and has been preserved simply by oral history. Road a little bit. So like I mentioned, it's a gravel road, but there is a ton of gravel here. They actually had to build the road up quite a bit so that it got above the permafrost. And all that really means for driving it is that the gravel can become very soft because it's so thick. So that allowed us to test out the traction control system in the truck today. And around a lot of these corners, the traction control is kicking in. It does kind of save you from the back end coming around. And the thing I like about it is that it's not a really harsh traction cutoff. It's not like, oh, there goes your power. it feels kind of progressive. As you kind of come around a corner, the traction sees what you're doing, it sees that the back end's coming out, and it just slowly kind of catches you and brings you back. And when traction control systems are really abrupt, they can be kind of scary, to be honest, because you're not expecting them to cut in, and this system is definitely not that. So in here on the interior of the Silverado, Chevy's done a pretty nice job with this redesign. It's actually not a massive change. Sort of this classic shroud up here over the center stack kind of looks the same as the old truck, and some of the materials, the plastic materials, also look the same. I do like they have all these little toggle switches down here underneath the touchscreen, and they're pretty nice to get to all kinds of different functions. Now, Chevy also spent time with a lot of the different kind of neat little features on this truck. First of all, this LTZ model today has the two most important things: heated seats and a heated steering wheel, because we are in the Arctic, and especially the steering wheel is appreciated to have warm fingers. Beyond that, there's also a new tailgate out back, which you can lower and you can lift from in here in the cab. This is an industry first, a tailgate that actually will lift up for you, a power tailgate. Now again, that's one of those features I'm not sure people were really asking for it, but Chevy spent a lot of time on the bed of this truck, and that's a no-brainer. You know, why not have a tailgate that can lift itself up? Power lift gates have become so popular on all SUVs and crossovers, so why not pickup trucks? And the entire bed got a makeover for this 2019 model, which is also pretty cool considering that the truck bed hasn't really changed in a long time. Now what Chevy did is they added way more tie downs. I believe there are a total of 12 back there now, 3 on each corner. And then they also made the bed wider, which just means you can haul more stuff. So the bed on the Silverado is 7 inches wider. Now it's not any wider between the wheel wells, but the walls are much wider. And when you put something like this Polaris in the bed, you see the difference. Look at all the space you have there for whatever you need to. You know, maybe you're storing ramps for the sled, maybe you're putting a tote in there full of gear. And you know, this, when you're filling the bed with stuff, you really do notice that it is that much more spacious. Rear seat space is another thing that's improved on this 2019 model. So there's an extra 3 inches of legroom. And I'm a big guy standing at about 6'2", and I fit here with extra space to spare. So this is now quite a big back seat. And another neat little feature, these storage bins right in the back of the seat. Now, I mean, they're not too big, but it's always appreciated to have a nice out-of-the-way storage bin, and that's a pretty clever spot for it. And this cannot go unnoticed. Yes, there are now vents for the backseat passengers in the Silverado, and even heated seats. Another small thing I keep noticing as I drive this truck are the mirrors. The mirrors have been made quite a bit longer than the last generation Silverado, and I appreciate that. You know, just larger mirrors is always a good thing, especially if you're towing a trailer. And these are not towing mirrors, but the fact that they're so long just means if you have a big trailer back there, you're going to see more of the road around. Alright, so now we have a chance to tow a trailer with this new Silverado here in Inuvik. So the trailer we've got on is probably around 5,000 pounds, maybe a little bit more. So we're not exactly pushing this truck to its limits, but it's still a pretty nice load back there. And this is a 6.2 liter equipped Silverado, so we do have the big V8, and you definitely notice it. I mean, the engine barely notices that load back there. But some of the things I noticed for towing right away is Chevy repositioned the trailer brake controller. It used to be up on the left. Now it's down here on the right. And they say that's just because, you know, most people are right-handed. Your natural driving position is usually your right hand is down here low. So, and other manufacturers kind of all have it down here too. And Chevy followed suit, just saying it's a more natural position. So there's an all-new trailering app that Chevy has brought out, and it just allows you to do so many different things. You can pre-program different trailers into your truck so that the truck will remember the specific settings for that trailer, and you can program multiple trailers. So if you own a bunch of different things, you hop in, you hit the button, you know, boat trailer, UTV trailer, and you're ready to go. Now, the other big advancement on this truck for trailering is all the the cameras. There are more cameras on this truck than ever, and you just get a surround view, but you can also get a zoom-in view on the hitch for hooking up. You can get a camera which now attaches to the back of your trailer, and you can actually get this really neat view where it shows you what's behind your trailer, but then it also shows you what's beside the truck using the mirror cameras, and you know, when you're towing, having more angles is always a good thing. It's always appreciated because you feel more safe, you feel more confident when you can see more around your trailer, especially when you're backing up.
Another thing that kind of stands out, especially now that we're towing something, is the steering in this truck. Chevy has revised the steering for this 2019, and I feel as though it's a little bit heavier than it was before and just has a little bit more weighting to it. The old Silverado was a little more on the light side, and this to me feels just a little more confidence inspiring. You know, you get a little bit more feedback through the wheel, and that just really helps you sort of feel the vehicle around you, and especially with the load on the back, I really do like the steering in this new truck. So we're all done trailering, and now we also have a chance to do a bit of off-roading here. We're in an LT Trail Boss with the 18-inch wheels and the Durtrack tires. And so far it feels really nice. You know, the 2-inch lift is definitely noticeable. It just gives you a little more confidence when you're tackling big deep ruts and stuff. And then the shocks are working for you too, the new Rancho shocks for this package, but I think maybe the biggest upgrade is the tires. Having the Durtracks, especially the 18-inch wheels, gives you way more sidewall. This thing just feels really nicely composed over the bumps, and it's not beating us up at all. Yeah, you know, the Trail Boss off-road is a very noticeable difference over just a stock Silverado for sure.
And if you're wondering about the price, Chevrolet Canada actually hasn't released it yet for the new Silverado. They say it's coming on October the 1st, so check back then to TFL Truck for all the Canadian prices. So that's it, we're back where we started here at the Inuvik Airport. We did the road up and back, and now it's time to head back down south. So first of all, this 2019 Silverado was a great steed for this trip, but let me tell you, even more so than the truck was just this location. It's absolutely awe-inspiring here in the Arctic to see just the sheer space that we have, and it kind of makes you feel a little bit small. Not to mention the road is an incredible piece of infrastructure which was built in a very inhospitable place. So if you ever get a chance to come up here to Inuvik or Tuktoyaktuk, you have to do it. Add it to your bucket list right now.
So as always, guys, subscribe to TFL Truck and come back here for the latest news, views, and real-world reviews. See ya.